Hello and welcome to SaltWire today for Tuesday, January 24th. I'm your host, Kate Walker. 2 people were sent to hospital after a crash on the McKay Bridge this morning. Around 8:30, Halifax Regional Police say they were responding to a multiple vehicle collision on the bridge. The accident caused a major traffic jam across the city, some waiting hours in their commute. Police say 2 people were taken to hospital with what are believed to be life-threatening injuries. The bridge was closed for a period of time before it was reopened later this morning. There's no word on the cause of the crash or the victim's current conditions. Nova Scotia Acorn, the Association of Community Organizations for Reform Now, held a rally at Halifax City Hall this morning to call for a public hearing on the proposed landlord registration bylaw. Acorn says the bylaw follows years of their efforts to push HRM to strengthen enforcement of the M200 bylaw, respecting standards for residential occupancies.
One of the great difficulties that people have is even knowing who their landlord is, because there's management companies and property managers and people in between owners and tenants, and it can become hard to know who you're dealing with. So the rental registry will make an easy, accessible way to know who you're dealing with and also see their compliance record. That way you can make an informed decision when you rent with someone based on their record of compliance with the city. It will also allow the city to do proactive inspections on units, not just based on complaints.
The rally was also to shed light on buildings that are slowly falling apart due to lack of maintenance by landlords.
I'm at 86 Highfield, and the balconies there are very slanted and sloped because they're not obviously maintaining them. They're held up with posts, and I've been trying for 3 years to get them to fix the problem. There's also loads of pigeon poop on the balconies, which they claim that they are cleaning, but they're not. There's a lot of mold within the buildings. The windows are falling apart. There's just so many issues. It's pretty much one of those, you name it, they have it.
Hayhurst says if the landlord registry were to go forward, building standards would have to be enforced. After the Acorn rally, another protest was held in front of Halifax City Hall, this time to save the historic home and clinic of Halifax's first Black doctor and a man who was deemed a hero of the Halifax explosion. Today, HRM City Council met to determine whether the former home and clinic of Dr. Clement Liguori on North Street will be demolished. The group behind the rally says Dr. Liguori, the province's first Black physician, played a key role in the 1917 Halifax explosion, treating over 200 victims a day. They say both his reputation and his clinic deserve recognition and preservation.
It would erase another piece of our African history and heritage. For the most part, a lot of Black people did not know about the contributions of Dr. Liguori, along with many others. And if they erase this, it's erasing another piece of our history.
An animated short film inspired by the Halifax explosion has been nominated for an Academy Award. The Flying Sailor, directed by Amanda Forbes and Wendy Tilby, is on the shortlist for Best Animated Short Film at the 2023 Academy Awards.
The Flying Sailor.
The 7-minute short follows the journey of a man who was blown 2 kilometers through the air after the collision in the Halifax harbor. The short was based on the true story of a British sailor who survived the experience. More than 2,000 people were killed and 9,000 injured in the blast. The Oscars will be held at the Dolby Theatre at Ovation Hollywood on March 12th. The Flying Sailor can be watched online at the New Yorker's digital channels as well as on the NFB's website. It's time now for a glimpse of today's Thinking Out Loud with Sheldon McLeod. Today, Sheldon is speaking with political scientist Dr. Laurie Turnbull about the politics of healthcare.
When you put out there in the world that you want to fix healthcare and you raise that level of expectation, what's your thought of the way that the political messaging has been handled since the new year and since that took place?
Okay, so that was those are such tragic stories, and they really grip people because they completely challenge our hope that if we need the healthcare system, it will be there for us. And I think for a long time, the debate has been about things like the length of a wait time and your quality of life being diminished by having to wait for a service to have to, or for a health service to have to wait for a doctor to have, that sort of thing. But the idea that you might wait and wait and wait and it doesn't come and you'll die or your family member will die, that is not acceptable to people. And so it completely throws everything, I think, in a new space where I can see people having conversations about changing the way we approach healthcare that we've never had before.
And for Sheldon's full conversation, head to the opinion section of SaltWire.com. Time now for the Atlantic Sports Wire, presented by Scott Squires.
This is part 2 of my conversation with Dahlia Daw, who wears number 16 for the Halifax Western Capitals, part of the Maritime Major Female U18 Hockey League. What have been a couple of highlights for you so far this season?
At BMO, I scored my first goal a couple weeks ago, and that was a good highlight. And our trip to Ottawa, best trip, honestly, of my life. That was so fun.
Now, I see some medals and things behind you there on the wall. Without getting into too much detail, because there's a lot of medals there, but what are those medals for?
Well, I play track and field and volleyball and hockey, so I got some from over the years.
Dahlia, how old were you roughly when you get into hockey, and how did you get into it? Like, was there somebody who put a stick in your hand, or did you just kind of pick up the game yourself?
Well, I missed out on IP1, but I was in IP2, and I was in dance first, and I absolutely hated that. And then my dad put on skates for me, and I immediately loved it.
You were in dance, and you hated dance, but you put skates on, and the skates fit you better. What about ice dance?
No, I never had figure skates. It was only hockey skates, and I'm not much of a dancer, so I don't think I'd last on that.
Fair enough. The next game for Dahlia and the Western Capitals is this Thursday night, 6:10 p.m. puck drop at the West Hant Sportsplex. In Halifax, I'm Scott Squires for the Atlantic Sports Wire.
Dahlia Daw snipes one, and the Capitals lead 2-1.
Thank you, Scott. On to weather now. To see what's coming up in the forecast, we're going to check in now with our weather specialist, Alistair Alders.
Thanks, Kate. Well, after yesterday's wet weather that delivered 30 to 50 millimeters generally in HRM, the sun was back in the mix at times today, although that drop in temperature overnight certainly did make for some icy conditions, especially this morning. We do have one more fair weather day in the forecast before our next storm system arrives. This evening, it will be mainly cloudy, the temperature near the freezing mark, and -3 is where we start on Wednesday morning with a mix of sun and cloud. Now, as we go throughout the afternoon, increasing cloudiness, but I do think this will initially be some high cloud cover, so that sun will try to filter through. Not a bad day overall, with the temperature heading up to about -1. But our next storm system will move in Wednesday overnight into Thursday morning. It could begin initially as some snow, especially inland. No significant accumulation though. This turns over to rain at times heavy throughout the day on our Thursday, and I'm expecting about 30 to 50 millimeters of rain here in Halifax, with the highest amounts directly along the Atlantic coast. But wind will be a big story with this storm too, from the southeast and the south, gusting 70 up to 90, maybe even 100 kilometers per hour. So certainly we're in for a wet and windy day on Thursday, and I'll continue to closely monitor this system. Kate.
Thank you, Alistair. That's all for now. For more extended video and full online articles, stay tuned to SaltWire.com. And you can find us on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at SaltWire Today. I'm your host, Kate Walker. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.